What terrifying thing was in the shaking metal bucket? It was so heavy that two men had to lift it onto the table. Sheriff Julie Forrester carefully opened the lid, asking Carl, the biology expert, what it could be. Carl was stunned by what he saw. He quickly asked where they found it. Novak, the seismologist, nervously replied they just caught it from the town's lake. Carl poured the bucket's thing into a fish tank. Suddenly, a fierce-looking fish appeared, alive and aggressive, with sharp teeth and a vicious attitude. Carl cautiously stuck his finger into the water, and the fish nearly bit him immediately. Even scarier was that this creature wasn't alone. There were at least tens of thousands more in that lake. Carl panicked upon hearing this, and quickly grabbed a fossil from inside the house to compare it with the fish. To his shock, the creature perfectly matched the fossil's image. Carl now confirmed his suspicion. It was a prehistoric super piranha from 2 million years ago, the ancestor of all piranhas. These fish always hunted in large groups and were extremely sensitive to the smell of blood. Once prey was injured, they would swarm immediately. Yet Carl couldn't figure out how these creatures suddenly reappeared when they were supposed to be extinct. A few days earlier, the town experienced a small earthquake, causing the lakebed to crack open, accidentally releasing ancient piranhas trapped underground since a volcanic eruption. A giant whirlpool formed at the center of the lake. An unfortunate fisherman named Matt was sucked into it. The starving piranhas devoured Matt in mere seconds. Later, police responded to a missing persons report and arrived at the lake to investigate. They found Matt's boat floating nearby. Julie tried to pull it toward shore, but suddenly, the wooden pier collapsed beneath her. Julie fell into the water, and while desperately trying to swim back to shore, she was horrified to see Matt's mutilated body floating right next to her, already partially eaten by the piranhas. Together, they pulled Matt's body ashore, shocked and confused by what kind of creature could cause such gruesome damage. To figure out the cause of the accident, Julie took Novak, the seismologist, and 2 divers to investigate the lake the next day. Using scanning equipment, they quickly found a huge crack caused by the earthquake. The 2 divers immediately went underwater to check it out. Soon, they reached the deep crack and discovered a massive underground lake. For safety, Paula stayed near the entrance, while Sam swam deeper into the cave. What he saw inside shocked him. There were strange pillar-like structures covered with glowing fish eggs. Curious, Sam reached out to touch them, but suddenly, due to the darkness, he couldn't see clearly. Panicked, he quickly lit a flare, only to witness a terrifying scene. Paula only realized something was wrong when Sam's safety rope suddenly snapped. She immediately dove into the cave to check on him, but what she saw was horrifying. Sam was being attacked by a swarm of monstrous fish, the surrounding water instantly turning blood red. Terrified, Paula quickly turned around to escape, but a huge swarm of piranhas chased after her, viciously biting her legs. Realizing the divers were in danger, Novak quickly jumped into the water to help. Unfortunately, it was too late. When Paula was pulled back onto the boat, her lower body had already been eaten down to the bone. One vicious, lively piranha was also accidentally brought onto the boat. To identify the mysterious fish and its origins, the sheriff took the piranha to Carl, the biologist. Carl explained how dangerous these piranhas were. They probably survived this long by cannibalizing each other due to a severe lack of food. Their eyesight had severely weakened in the dark environment, but their sense of hearing and smell grew incredibly sharp. Their personalities had also become extremely aggressive and bloodthirsty. It was terrifying to imagine what would happen if thousands of these creatures appeared in a modern lake. Listening to Carl's words, Julie immediately knew they were in deep trouble. Because today was the town's annual water carnival, Julie immediately led her team to the scene. When they arrived, countless tourists had already gathered. The officers quickly began evacuating the area, shouting loudly, telling people to stop the party and stay away from the water. But the scene was far too noisy, and no one heard their warnings. Desperate, Deputy Fallon fired his gun into the air, shouting to everyone, "The sheriff has declared an emergency." But to their surprise, this friendly warning backfired. Instead, it made the crowd even crazier. They ignored the officers' pleas and jumped into the water, turning up the music even louder, continuing their deadly party. Julie grabbed a loudspeaker and tried again to warn them, but the commotion had already attracted the piranhas. An unlucky woman was the first victim. Then, swarms of piranhas quickly followed, launching a wild attack on everyone in the water. Only then did people realize something was terribly wrong, desperately trying to swim back to shore. Chaos erupted everywhere. The lake turned blood red in seconds, filled with horrifying screams. Those who swam fast enough survived, but those who didn't became food for the piranhas. Facing this disaster, the police felt helpless, only able to rescue as many people as possible. Then suddenly, the stage couldn't hold any more weight and collapsed straight into the water. In the emergency, Novak quickly jumped onto a jet ski, shooting piranhas with the gun while rescuing the tourists along the way. Deputy Fallon was even braver. To protect the tourists escaping to shore, he ripped off a boat propeller and stuck it into the water, killing countless piranhas instantly. But even Fallon couldn't last forever against the endless wave of fish, and soon he was overwhelmed. When everything finally calmed down, the party scene was horrifying, filled with severed limbs and bodies everywhere. Julie was treating the injured when suddenly she got a call from her son, Jake. He told her they'd also been attacked by the piranhas. Hearing that her 3 children were in danger, Julie panicked and immediately raced there with Novak. Just moments earlier, Jake had been on a yacht with his younger brother Zane and sister Laura, along with their friends. But the boat accidentally hit underwater rocks, throwing a man and a woman overboard. Instantly, swarms of piranhas surrounded them, devouring the woman in seconds. One fish even swam out of her mouth. Terrified, the man desperately surfaced, swimming back toward the yacht. A woman on board grabbed a paddle, ready to help him, but before she could, the man was viciously attacked by the piranhas. Though they eventually pulled him aboard, his lower body was already torn to pieces. Sadly, he soon died from blood loss. Even worse, someone was trapped inside the cabin. As the water kept rising, a swarm of piranhas swam into the cabin. Kelly was the girl Jake had a crush on. At that moment, she could only stand on a high spot and shout loudly for Jake to help her from outside. But a piranha suddenly leaped out of the water, trying to attack her. Jake tried to open the skylight to rescue her, but he realized it was completely stuck. With no other option, he called his mom, Julie, for help. Julie and Novak rushed over, but worried about hitting the rocks. Julie had to stop the boat a bit further away. She threw a rope over to Jake. After Jake tied the other end securely, she climbed along the rope back to the yacht. When Julie learned there was still someone trapped inside the cabin, she started looking for a way to save Kelly. But the stuck skylight wouldn't budge for her either. The only other passage was completely submerged, and the water was filled with vicious piranhas. Left with no choice, Julie decided to get the other girl, Danny, and her 2 kids, Zane and Laura, safely onto the boat first. They could see the water teeming with countless piranhas. One wrong move could end in disaster, but they made a fatal mistake. They shouldn't have tried to cross all 4 at once. Sure enough, when they reached halfway, the rope was pulled dangerously close to the water. Danny, who was in front and had long hair, was immediately attacked by the piranhas. Panicking, Danny struggled desperately, but the piranhas leaped up and tore into her back. Danny quickly became exhausted, fell straight into the water, and was brutally devoured by the piranhas. The remaining 3 were terrified by the horrific scene and hurried to climb faster to the other side. The 2 kids made it safely onto the boat, but suddenly the handrail snapped. Luckily, Novak reacted quickly, started the yacht, and saved the situation just in time. Julie also took the chance and successfully got back onto the boat. However, Kelly's situation looked grim. The lake water had already risen to her feet. The piranhas started getting restless. Kelly could only fight back with a frying pan. Seeing Kelly in mortal danger, Jake didn't follow his mom's orders to climb over and join her. Instead, he untied the rope and fastened it around himself. He came up with a plan to rescue Kelly, using one corpse to distract the piranhas. When Jake tossed the corpse into the water, the piranhas inside the cabin immediately swam out after it. Taking advantage of the feeding frenzy, Jake quietly jumped into the water from the side, swam under the boat, and successfully reunited with Kelly. Jake quickly radioed Julie, telling them to get ready to pull the 2 of them out. After that, Jake found a flare and dived underwater again to open 2 gas canisters, planning to blow up the piranhas after escaping. Once everything was set, Jake called Julie and told them to start the boat in 10 seconds. He and Kelly then dived underwater, unaware that something had gone wrong outside. Right at that critical moment, the speedboat wouldn't start no matter what. Meanwhile, clueless about the trouble, Jake had already lit the flare and threw it into the cabin. Even worse, the piranhas had finished eating the corpse and were swimming back. Seeing this, Jake could only hold Kelly tight and hope for the best. At the last possible second, the speedboat finally roared to life. A massive explosion killed a huge number of piranhas. Jake and Kelly were pulled to safety, but just as everyone started celebrating their narrow escape, Julie suddenly got a call from Carl. His voice was shaking as he told Julie, "Sheriff, the ones we killed? They were only babies. The adult piranhas were supposed to be much bigger." The moment he finished his sentence, a gigantic adult piranha leaped out of the water and swallowed Novak whole.